we made it to the car. I was in the passenger seat, getting buckled up and all of that. And then my last memory was sitting in the passenger seat and sort of listing to the side. Like,
you felt like you're gravity pulling you, or what?
It was just sort of like, well, I guess if you've ever been under anesthesia, you know, that moment when
it's taking you.
You're counting down like 3, 2, and you don't get to 1 because you black out. Well, it was that feeling of blacking out, and I was sort of falling to the side. And also, my wife, Stacy's, her reaction as I was falling, like there was a panic. So that's sort of my last.
That you just kind of have that flash, and that's it.
And that's it.
It's the Fit for Radio podcast, and I'm your host, Drew Tiedemann, and as usual, we are at the Stafford Hills Club, a beautiful club where you can see the steam coming off the pool because they keep it heated all year long. Salt water, too, so you don't get that chlorine bath, and it's all freshly renovated. I'm here. My wife's here all the time. The kids' club's amazing, and, you know, we've got a movement here. Some people have been listening to the podcast, have already joined the club. Let's just make it a family, and that's how they do it over here. Stronger together, right here at Stafford Hills. StaffordHills.com for all the details. Now, I'm here now with a guest I've been waiting to talk to. His name is Brad Bahns. How are you, Brad?
I'm doing great, Drew.
Yeah, so I actually heard about your story, and you and I had a chance to talk for a few minutes, and really what it is, and it's a story that I think could be any of our story, because it's kind of a thing that happened to you out of the blue, that changed your life and almost took you away from us. And, you know, I don't think you can come much closer to death than you did. And we're going to get into it. All right. So now, Brad, you are from this area where we do this podcast at the Stafford Hills Club is like one long street away from where you were born and raised in Sherwood, Oregon. Is that correct?
Yep. I grew up in Sherwood, Oregon, born in the 60s. And
yeah, so the 60s in Sherwood. Now, even when I was growing up, the area between Sherwood and Tualatin was just kind of like farmland, and you'd just kind of drive, and then you'd have to drive. It felt like you had to drive, and then there was some Sherwood over there.
Exactly.
And now when I was going to high school in the 90s, when I, you know, finally had a license and I could get outside of the area, it was bustling, though. It was starting to like build up at that point. And now when you go there, it's unrecognizable with the giant businesses and industry that's going on. What was it like in Sherwood back in those days compared to now?
So growing up in Sherwood, small high school, I think there were less than 100 students in my graduating class. So you pretty much knew everyone in town. Mm-hmm. The high school itself had 400 students, I think. So
pretty small.
Yeah. And, you know, jump to 2026, the high school has 1,600 or plus students. So there's, you know, 400 per class.
And it's growing all the time out there. I mean, it's because we do a lot of soccer with the kids out there, and you know, you got to drive that long road, and there's always a project going on. So
exactly, yeah. You talk about the road between Sherwood and here, and you know, it's been a steady project for the last decade. So
yeah, and it's a traffic mess too. But you graduated from Sherwood High School in 1984. And then you headed off. I feel like I've got a tendency. Everybody I'm interviewing these days is an Oregon State Beaver. You earned a teaching degree from Oregon State in 1988, which is pretty cool. Now, the Beavers, it was a different thing back then, too. It was a much smaller operation. You go to a football game, you could kind of almost like go sit on a hill and peer your way in, right?
Yeah, and at that time, Oregon State was definitely a basketball school. Football was in the midst of a 28-year losing streak. So it was just a different time.
Gary Payton went to Oregon State. The glove, the pride of Seattle.
He was a freshman my senior year, I think.
Oh my gosh! So, and was he already good at that point, or so he was on the radar?
Definitely a presence on campus, and
he was incredible. I love that guy's fire. Now, after you got done with Oregon State, you headed home, right? So where is Centennial? You worked at Sherwood, but where is exactly the Centennial High School?
My first teaching job was in the Centennial District, which is out in the Gresham area.
Oh, okay. So you did some traveling for work before you got home.
Yeah, so I lived out there for 10, 15 years and then got hired in Sherwood.
Which is like destiny because you grew up there.
Right. And my mom had been a teacher in Sherwood forever. And so when I got my first job, she was still teaching. And so they were hesitant to hire a son with the mother in the school. So I went out on my own and did my own thing for 12 years and then met my wife in the Centennial District. And we had our son in 1999. And my mom was driving across town to babysit 2 or 3 times a week. And by that time, she was retired and no longer working in Sherwood. So I got a call from Sherwood asking if I was interested in a job out there. And so
that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it made sense to move back to Sherwood and have the babysitter close by.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll be honest with you. People, like my kids will be at school and I'm talking about my life and my mom lives like a mile from me. And a couple of my brothers live pretty close to me as well. And it is a luxury to have a parent who can babysit. First of all, financially, that's without saying. They're not normally charging you and you trust them. So my kids have spent very little time with strangers. Or I mean, they're not usually a stranger, but like some teenage kid who's more into their phone than whatever. So I think it's a real blessing to have that close by. And, especially when your kids are young, give you a chance to breathe a little bit.
Yeah. And the beauty now is that when our kids were fairly young, we moved into the house that I grew up in, which just happened to be next door to my grandparents' house. And so my mom moved into that house. And so we're neighbors now. We've been neighbors for the last 20 years.
Oh, that's incredible. So you live even closer than I do to my mom.
My kids got the same childhood that I got growing up next to grandparents and living in a compound, we call it. I have cousins that live in the same neighborhood as well.
Yeah, so I will say this, I've got the parents who they'll walk right into your house or right into your backyard and you're like, whoa, what are we doing? I mean, you can't say much about it, but I think that's why it's probably good that they are one standard foot by foot mile away from me. But, I guess who needs boundaries? Right. Who needs them? Now, when you walk in here and this is going to come into play, but when you come in here, the first thing I notice, and I knew this about you because we had talked, is that you're a slender guy. As in, you look fit, and you look like a lot of the people I see here at the club who they're active and they move and they're functioning like that. Now, you wrote to me and said that you rode your bike to school on a daily basis when you were teaching.
Yeah, teaching in Sherwood. Now, it was 1.5 miles. So,
but it's still productive.
But yeah. Over about a 10-year period, I just got into the habit of riding my bike to school every day, rain or shine.
Did you have a little rain suit or would you just come in all soggy?
I would keep a change of clothes at school.
Oh, okay. So you had backup options. You weren't just coming in all sogged out.
I sort of got addicted to it, just the idea that, I was exercising. It was a 15 minutes of exercise, but it was something. And
I think it's great.
One of the things that I do, and I'll get into this more later, is that I like to keep things on spreadsheets. So when I'd get to school, I would log my.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So over a period of years, I logged over 3,000 miles on my bike just to and from work. 3 miles per day.
And, that's not lost on me. I mean, it's been on this podcast that I logged my push-ups for years and years and years. And I also, one thing I don't really talk about is as far as bikes are concerned is I think if I were to pull my phone out, I think it's like I have a 900-day Peloton streak. It's just that the idea that you do your routine and that routine kind of keeps you from going backwards, and I think that you doing that is brilliant. And and obviously genetics also help to keep you thin, but it doesn't hurt when you're, the person who slobs their way to work while they're eating a bagel and then they crush a Diet Coke like that. That's a tougher ride. And so you can't have a snack on a bike most times. So that's a good deal. Now, growing up, you were an athlete, a two-sport athlete, played basketball and baseball, which speaks into being a healthy person. Again, we're kind of putting together like a collection of things that make it seem like you would be in the healthy category who doesn't need to worry about much. One thing I'm extremely jealous of, and it's kind of a side note here, is a 2-handicap golfer. Come on now. I mean, have you always been that good, or did you work at that?
Definitely not. Golf was something that I picked up as a teenager and did it from time to time. And when the kids were young, I'd maybe play like once a week. But as the kids got older and now that I'm
some time
tired, I play 100+ rounds a year.
Wow.
So, that
helps a lot.
Help a lot.
It really does. And I love golf, but as I kept like adding kids, it's like, and here's the funny part. When my first daughter was born, it's like a couple days old, and Amy's like, just go play golf. I think she just wanted me to leave. And so I went and played golf, and I had played golf like 3 times a week, every week for years because I had no kids, and I'd get done with the radio show and I'd just go play golf. And these people who I knew out there were like, wow, this is crazy. Like, your kid is 3 days old and Amy's letting you golf? And I was like, yeah, this is sweet. That's like one of the last times I remember just like hanging out and golfing like that, because, now it has to be scheduled out. And it's like, well, we've got 3 soccer games, and you know what it's like when you're going through the dredges of raising the kids, because they are more important. But man, I miss that.
Golf is a commitment. If you're going to play 18 holes, you're talking 4 or 5 hours out of the day. So,
and I think that, and I don't know if it's all wives or ladies, but I think they forget how long 4.5, 5 hours is, because it'll be like right at 4 hours. It's like, are you still playing? You're like, this is always the time where you have forgotten that this takes a long time.
Yeah.
But my wife likes golf, so if you get a cart and you get the kids somewhere else, I can get her to join for that 4 hours, which is pretty sweet. Now, so you're an athlete, and you say though that your dedication to fitness and cardio varied over the years. So when you say that, what are you talking about?
I'm definitely not into like running or, I mentioned biking every day to work. Well, that was it for biking. I wasn't
going long,
like a 20, 30 mile ride on the weekends, things like that. So, and really like scheduling a time for fitness and focusing on getting the heart rate up for 20, 30 minutes a day. I equated being active with being physically fit. And
what you see in the mirror is good enough, right? And I really do think that that's an issue for thin guys. And I was just talking to a guy yesterday where I was telling him that you were coming in here, and he's like, oh, you got to watch out for the skinny guy, because that's the corn dog guy. That's the guy who can eat a corn dog and nothing happens to him in the mirror. And so I'm fine. Like, I burn the stuff off. How many times in your life do you just think that, like, I just got the metabolism for it, we're good? I mean, am I putting words in your mouth?
No, that's exactly the case. And, as I hit my 30s and the metabolism started to slow down, and, I have habits that, I would eat ice cream every night, and you kind of get into those kinds of routines, and it just compounds and piles up, over the years.
Days and days turn into weeks and months and years, and then you're the Dreyer's ice cream guy. What was your flavor?
Oh, chocolate chip cookie dough.
That was it. Oh, so you had it wasn't just vanilla.
Big bowl too.
And I used to go like 5 scoop too, where it's just the whole bowl is loaded, like almost like a little Mount Hood. inside that bowl. But that, you don't need me to tell you that that's not a great idea.
No.
It's delicious, but it's not a great idea. But we're going to get into why it's not a good idea. And your story to me is, I'll just tell you that it frightens me a little bit because I'm physically fit on paper. Like if you take me to a doctor and they try and squeeze my fat and they do all the things, I'm physically fit, but not all of my numbers read magically because, having more of a carnivore type diet, not a straight up carnivore, but eggs and meats and things like that, where, you almost convince yourself that those stats that they've got are archaic, almost like the food pyramid. But what we're going to find out is that is not necessarily the case. This all goes down March 19th, 2024. So it's not that long ago. You're in pretty good shape. Now, I want to get to something. Before we talk about the night in question, had you had any warnings from doctors about your health? Was there any like, hey, you should do this or you should do that? Because, as you get to your age, people start to, like doctors in particular, they want you to do things to stay healthy. Like my dad takes a medicine and statins, I think it's called. And so that he can prevent big cardiac events and things of those nature. Has that anything like that where it discussed with you?
So going back to my 20s, I think was the first time I actually had a blood test, early 20s. And even then, my cholesterol was sort of in the medium high range.
Yeah.
Nothing that concerned the doctors enough to prescribe medication.
But they just talked to you about it.
Yeah, they told me about it, something to watch. We're talking like 200 level, which is, in the medium to medium high range. And so that was always in the back of my mind. But, in your 20s, you're bulletproof pretty much. So
yeah, you don't really, I hear you, but I don't hear you.
I'm not going to change habits. I'm going to still crush the pizzas and drink the beer and all.
And you're burning it off, because you're active still. And when you were in your 20s and 30s, you're still playing competitive softball. So,
right.
And now granted, that's not like dead sprints all the time, but you're an active guy. You're not. Yeah. So in your 20s, I remember being told like, hey, watch the cholesterol. It's not alarming, but it's on the board, and it just in one ear and right out the other.
Yeah. And so then when we get to my early 40s, probably 15 years ago, a doctor actually prescribed statins.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. And I filled the prescription, opened up the bottle, and saw the size of the pill.
Are they big? Like, I don't know what they look like.
They're big. Not that should matter, but
just kind of gave you pause.
Just the whole idea of taking any sort of medication, I was definitely against. And so I put the pill back in the bottle, closed it up, put it in the cupboard, and thought, okay, I'm just going to change my diet and exercise, and I'm going to get those numbers down. And which worked, but I will admit I was pretty cranky for several months because
What kind of food had you transitioned to at that point? Because you probably even have a little different diet today, but at that point, what are you doing to...
I guess the best example would be if we're out to dinner, I'm not ordering a steak, I'm ordering a salmon.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So you lay off the red meats and the heavy booms.
And whether or not my plan was solid, it was just, in my mind, it was a tangible way of changing what I was doing. I was thinking about what I was eating, or maybe eating a little less.
Well, it is a good start. I mean, it's not like you were doing nothing. And there's something about me when I'm at a restaurant, I don't want the salmon. Like, I eat salmon. Yeah, I love salmon. Great. It's delicious, but I don't want to eat it at the restaurant. Like, I'll barbecue it or I'll put it on the smoker at my house. But like at the restaurant, I want the burger or I want the steak because, for me, I normally, and now steak is doesn't fit the bill for this, but I normally want something that wouldn't taste exactly the same at home, exactly. And I think growing up on fish, a lot of white fish at my parents' house in the poor days, and you just never want that when you're out at the restaurant because you kind of want to like live large.
Yeah, this is a treat.
Yeah, 100%. And if I'm going to pay for my meal and all these other people's meals, I want the steak. And now, but it's that type of thinking that has gotten many, many men and women in trouble over the years of what do I want right now? So you've switched to kind of the salmon. Are you a big carb guy? Are you crushing a lot of breads?
More recently, I went sort of to the no carb or low carb diet.
But that first time,
But the first time, it was a fairly short-lived change, and I did get my numbers down and maybe felt a little bit more secure in things. But as the years passed, the numbers kind of creep back up. And ironically, like the year before this event, I was in for my regular checkup, and I talked about it with the doctor again, which, I had something that I talked about with the doctor, and I'm pretty good about going yearly and stuff. We talked about the merits of taking statins, and what we concluded was that if I started then, which would have been about 3 years ago, I would be it would pay off in 15 years when maybe you wish you had taken them and caused the problems. And so, as it turns out, the 15 years had already.
You had already surpassed that 15 years.
15 years before, I probably should have started the statin.
So how are you feeling day to day before March 19th? So like when you're just living your life, just take me like a week ahead of that. Not a true event, but how are you feeling day to day? Are you having any health issues, or are you?
I actually do have some true events. So feeling pretty good, feeling normal, but I'd had a couple of strange dizzy spells. One was while I was teaching. I stood up to start the lesson and
got lightheaded.
I saw spots and was lightheaded, I felt like I was going down. I just grabbed a table and kind of leaned, and the kids were just waiting patiently. I didn't really tell them what was going on. It just kind of acted like I was thinking or whatever.
And then it faded away.
Spots kind of faded away and got back to normal. And then that same type of thing happened 2 more times within probably a week or 2 of that first one.
And did you report that to anyone? Did you tell your wife?
My wife.
Was she concerned?
The second one, and then the third one happened while she was like in the same room, and I said, "Hey, it's happening now." I was just sitting at the computer. I wasn't even.
Oh, you didn't even get up?
No.
Oh, that's concerning.
I said, "It's happening," and she said, "Yeah, you look pretty flushed." And we agreed at the time that if it happened again, that I was going to get it checked out.
So you had 3 warnings.
I had a witness, and this is happening fairly frequently.
Because the first couple times, and I don't know, you tell me how your wife is, but when I'm like, I didn't feel right or something, it's kind of like, well, you probably got a head rush. Like it happens to all of us.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it felt like.
Yeah, and so you're like, okay, well, it's fine. But when it starts to repeat itself, then, I mean, you're probably not at red alert, but you're like, God, I hope that doesn't happen again.
Well, and, living in the age of COVID, I thought, well, maybe
like a long COVID type thing.
So I did a test to see, and no COVID. So
kind of hoping you have COVID at that point.
You want an explanation for things like this that happen. So
yeah, I was. It's a story for another time, but I was like mystery diagnosis for 3 years. I call it the 1,000 Days of Sadness. It'll be its own podcast. But it was like you'd go in for tests to try and like find out what's wrong with you, and you're like hoping you have all these debilitating diseases just so you have something to fight. Yeah, I want to battle here. But you did not have answers at that point. You're listening to the Fit for Radio podcast, brought to you by the Stafford Hills Club. It's a place, let's be honest, you gotta check it out. Of course, it's the premier indoor-outdoor tennis facility where you can take lessons, you can play with your friends, tournaments, all kinds of stuff. Also, saltwater pool, an amazing kids club with a group of people who take care of my wild kids, and that's saying a lot all by itself. So check it out, staffordhills.com. All the amenities, you're not going to be disappointed. Voted the best health and wellness facility in the Portland area. And of course, tell them Drew sent you for half off your initiation at the Stafford Hills Club. All right, I want to get to what we've been talking about. People are probably like, what happens on March 19th? But I want to kind of go through your day. What does this day look like? What did you do in the morning? What was the plan?
So it's a Monday on the week before spring break, 3 days before March Madness. So I'm gearing up. I help run a big pool, and so dealing with emails and
oh yeah,
people.
I love
like,
March
get
Madness.
My bracket to work.
Yeah.
So that's going on. At this point, I'm teaching a part-time math class, and so I teach until 9 a.m. So got up and taught my class, and then went directly from my math class out to the golf course and played golf. It was a beautiful day for March. I look back at my my camera roll, and I took pictures of Mount Hood. I play golf out at Forest Hills.
Oh, nice. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, some great panoramas out there. And so I took some pictures there. And then there were pictures of my garden. I was kind of getting ready for gardening and all that. And so kind of your typical March, early spring day.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of funny that all these beautiful things that you're like taking in on this day, you're like, oh, well, this is a pretty perfect day. You've already done your job, play a little golf. I'm married to a massive green thumb. I know how you guys feel about the garden. It's a thing. It's worse than a drug addiction. So you've had a decent morning, probably into the early afternoon there. And how do things kind of round out?
So normal evening. My wife and I typically will watch a show and have a little snack before bed. So pretty typical. The funny thing is I really don't remember the evening, and maybe it's just because
of everything.
Most evenings just kind of run together. But,
yeah, they're like a lot like yesterday and the day before.
Right. So very typical. Went to bed probably between 10 and 11 o'clock.
Did you have your bowl of ice cream?
I no longer have ice cream.
So you were
on a regular.
You were already retired from ice cream in 2024.
Yeah, we're doing a little more sensible stuff.
Okay. Hey, I had to know. We know you had a long running addiction. Yeah. So no ice cream, but a little snack, standard night, little movie. And then what happens?
So sometime early in the night, after I'd been asleep for maybe an hour, probably around midnight, maybe 12:30, I get up, and all of this is very hazy because I really don't remember.
It's pieced together post game.
I have little images or flashes of things that happen. I guess probably the first image I have is waking up my wife.
Okay. So you remember that.
And probably the reason I remember it is because she kind of jumped. It startled her because I was standing beside the bed and shaking her.
And they do the eyes that they kind of fill full of energy.
And according to her, what I told her is that I don't feel right. We need to go to the hospital right
now. I'm glad that you said it bluntly, because I tend to go, well, and wish-wash. But you clearly did not feel right.
Yeah, and clearly knew that there was a problem. A lot of people have asked me, well, what were you feeling? I don't know.
Because all of us want to know, what do we have to watch
for?
What
am I watching for? And so I think probably because it happened while I was sleeping, I was already maybe in some sort of shock mode, or maybe a little bit of oxygen deprivation or something along those lines. Or even just, sort of still I'm in that REM cycle of sleep or whatever.
Yeah, you're kind of coming out of it.
Partially sleepwalking, because there is evidence that we sleep upstairs. There's evidence that I went downstairs because my wife later found a cup of water. And we think maybe I was searching for aspirin or something, because I think that somewhere in my mind, well, actually, the story is that I kept a couple of aspirin in my bedside table.
Just for this scenario?
Yeah, just because I read somewhere online, maybe
that an aspirin could save your life.
Yeah, maybe if you're having a stroke or something. So,
okay.
So, and the aspirin we didn't find until later, and I'll get into that. But
so there's
definitely evidence that
you'd gone downstairs. Now, do you think that partially that is just trying to kind of, whatever it is, trying to walk it off, maybe a glass of water. If I go sit in my chair for a second, and sit up.
The water was found by my recliner. So I actually went into the living room and maybe sat there.
Because there's always that initial thought. Am I having indigestion? Am I having do I have heartburn? What is going on? Because, when that type of stuff happened, a lot of time people just want to sit up or stand up or walk it off, get a glass of water. But maybe you're having a sixth sense at that point.
Yeah.
You never know.
And going back to my past, I'd had situations. Well, I had a chest pain once and had that checked out and passed a stress test, and then had some palpitations and things like that. So it was on my radar a little bit, but nothing serious.
Yeah.
So wake up my wife, and I do remember getting dressed, or just pieces of that, and throwing on some clothes, and remember walking out to the garage, maybe throwing on a jacket or something. And we made it to the car. I was in the passenger seat, getting buckled up and all of that. And then my last memory was sitting in the passenger seat and sort of listing to the side.
You felt like gravity pulling you, or what?
It was just sort of well, I guess if you've ever been under anesthesia, that moment when
it's taking you.
You're counting down 3, 2, and you don't get to 1 because you black out. Well, it was that feeling of blacking out, and I, sort of falling to the side. And also, my wife, Stacy's her reaction as I was falling, there was a panic. And so that's sort of my last.
That you just kind of have that flash, and that's it.
And that's it.
You go dark.
Right.
And so at this point, your memories have been given to you from the other person in the car, your wife.
My next memory is 2 days later. So everything in between was relayed to me by Stacy.
So Stacy is in the car. She's already alert. She's ready to drive you to a hospital. You fall into her lap. And what is her first move?
She calls 911.
Which I did some research, because I will admit that my CPR training is lapsed, and that it actually is the first thing on the checklist of when something like this happens is not to try and engage, but it's to call emergency personnel. So she's made a good decision.
Get that rolling immediately, and then
figure it out.
Yeah, and so the 911 operator told her to start compression, to start CPR, and so she tilted the seat back and just administered CPR right there in the car in our garage.
So I'm just, for the visualization of it, what kind of a car are we in? How much space is in there? Is this a sedan? Is it an SUV?
Sedan, a Honda Accord.
And so she just kind of crawls up on top of you?
Yeah, I kind of picture that she's just...
You're full on engaged.
style.
Yeah. Working those triceps. Just crah, crah.
Yeah.
So she starts in on this. Now, have you asked her, what was her, when you would know this, what was her, did she have any certification? Had she studied up on any of this, or was she being led blindly over the phone?
I think it was a little of both. The operator was definitely telling her what to do, but she's a teacher as well. And as teachers,
you've done some stuff.
Classes, we have to be certified.
Okay.
Every few years we have to take a class.
Because I'll be honest, I will try and save your life if you fell over right now. I would do my best to save you, but I would feel like I need some guidance along the way, just because I haven't had the class in so long. But she's on top of you and she's pounding away. How long is it that she's having to administer these things before somebody comes to help?
I'm sure for her, it probably felt like
a year,
hours, whatever. But I think we're talking in the space of less than 10 minutes that the first responders arrived.
They are so quick.
Yeah.
They were at my house on Friday. I had a dishwasher catch fire, but they are there so quick. It's truly amazing. And they're heroes as well. But so when they get there, they roll up on the scene. Stacy's still attempting to resuscitate you.
Yeah, and as they roll up, they told her, "Don't stop." They
keep on going until I'm on them.
Until they're ready to take over. So, I mean,
that's surreal.
This is pretty serious. Once you start compressions, you want to keep them going.
That's wild, because you would think, okay, they're here, step out and step in, but they're like, no.
Yeah, because we're probably seconds or minutes away from brain damage at the very least.
Yeah, you're on the edge. And as a math teacher, that is a lot of wasted brain. We cannot be having that. I've taken those classes. They're not easy. Yeah. So they're getting ready. When they're getting ready, what are they doing? Are they getting paddles? Are they getting a board? What are they doing?
That part is unclear. And the sick side of me kind of wishes that I'd had our security cameras on that night, because
absolutely,
there was a camera that would have caught a lot of this.
And especially since you're sitting here alive right now with me, then it's a little bit more of a show it to your buddies video.
Exactly. So I know at some point they pulled me out of the car because I have the road rash to prove it.
Oh, so they dragged you along
out into the driveway, I suppose, or somewhere near the garage.
Cuts and bruises are the last thing they're worried about.
At this point, police, fire, and EMT are all there, lights blaring and all that. And I think one of the police officers maybe pulled Stacy aside and kind of kept her out of the situation while they
just in case.
And so from what I've heard, it was about 40 minutes of work by the EMTs before they're able to stabilize me enough to even transport me to a hospital.
40 minutes? That's an eternity.
Right. And so, they gave me the paddles, the defibrillator, 3 shocks in order to get my heart going again. So at that point I was in VFib, or ventricular fibrillation, which is a bad one, because if your heart, it's the lower part of your heart that's basically fluttering, and so which means it's not pumping out oxygenated blood to the rest of your body.
Oh no! So the clock's ticking aggressively at that point. So as they're in that 40-minute window, I'm guessing because it's 40 minutes, they've gotten your heart started at this point, or is it just they're?
Yeah, I think they had gotten me out of VFib. It was just making me stable enough to transport, so that they didn't have to
do it again
while they were in transport.
So the 3 shocks, what is, it's a dumb question. What are the standard amount of shocks? But like, at what point do they stop trying?
Well, I thought that 3 or 4 was the max.
Right on the edge
I looked it up, and it isn't a hard and fast rule, but
some people probably just don't give up and like, we're going to shock until the cows come home.
I mean, but at that point, you could be doing more damage than good anyway. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do want to circle back on that, because I want to know, when you get basically electrocuted, what that feels like down the road. But in this moment now, they can't move you, but when they finally are able to do it, they move you via ambulance?
Yes.
Okay. And how far are you from a hospital?
Well, probably 10 minutes to the nearest hospital, but the best local cardiac hospital is a little farther, St. Vincent's, which is probably about a 20-minute.
Is that the one right by here?
It's up in the West Hills.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So they had to take you for a ride. And,
middle of the night, so there's no traffic. Getting to that particular hospital can be an hour-long ride in traffic, but probably a 20-minute ride in ambulance. So.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out how observant I am. My kid got born at this hospital right up here, and I have no idea what the name is. I just like blindly asked you which one is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What a good time that was. I was happy with the result. I'll just say that. So they get you up there, and I think it's a smart move that even though it's a little bit farther, you want to get the best possible care, because you are on the ropes. at this point. And you'll learn later that is, I mean, even in your notes from doctors, that it's not looking good at all. Now, it says that there was a note on your chart that said the patient is critically ill with acute impairments of the following organs, cardiovascular and nervous. He has a high probability of life-threatening deterioration. What does that mean? That you were just going to whittle and die?
Get me to the ER and do their thing with, the cardiac procedures. They're basically checking for damage and for the cause.
Mm-hmm.
So they determined that the cause was likely the ramus artery, which is, if you look at a picture of a heart, it's kind of that artery that has the fork that goes right over the top of your heart. And so they figured that was probably where there was some blockage. And so they actually inserted a stent into that artery. I think it was right in the ER to clear up that artery so that the blood could flow normally through that artery.
Now, Stacy, she does the miracle stuff, hero mode, keeps you alive till they get there. It's pulled aside by the police. Because she's not safe to be driving now, probably. Did she get to ride with you in the ambulance? Because sometimes that's not allowed.
No, they weren't going to allow that. And so I mentioned that we live in a family compound.
Yeah, so where are they?
So, sirens blaring, lights flashing. My family are hard sleepers.
They don't wake up?
Nobody woke up. My cousins.
Don't want to bother you guys, but I'm dying in the driveway.
And even Stacy was calling everyone. And so she did finally get a hold of a friend, and the friend came and
gave her a ride.
And they followed the ambulance.
Oh, my goodness. So, and then, that's just a traumatizing thing for her as well. And she's sitting there while they're trying to do emergency surgeries to save your life. For her, she clearly was very brave and in the moment. How was she handling all this at the time? Was she thinking she was losing you? Or was she in battle mode?
It probably doesn't help that they're asking, does he have a do not resuscitate order or anything? So
scary questions.
They're asking questions like, do we perform heroic procedures if things are going bad? So
absolutely.
Yeah. Because I'm still young. So
yeah.
And this is, no previous health issues.
Yeah.
So we want to fight this as hard as we can.
We're going to look to save you.
And, certainly more in many ways more traumatic to her than to me, because I don't remember.
You're just taking a nap.
And fortunately, our kids are older, and our son was living in Portland at the time. And so she was able to get a hold of him fairly early in the morning. Our daughter happened to be in New Zealand, of all places.
Oh, my goodness.
As far away as you can possibly get.
On the other side of the world.
Yeah. So it was a little bit harder to contact her, but the word got out pretty quickly.
So, I think that's one of the lucky things in this. And when you told me the story, one of the first questions I asked you was, where were your kids? Because I could only imagine if my girls were watching this from the window or whatever, as I'm laying in the driveway, it'd be something you'd never be able to get away from. Did your kids panic? Did they, I'm guessing your son was able to come over from Portland, but your daughter's in New Zealand.
Yeah. And I think her first thought was, how can I get home as quickly as possible? Because she still had planned to be there for like another 2 months.
Oh, wow. So that's...
as things kind of settled down, we decided that it wasn't worth it for her to change her plans. And with modern technology, you can FaceTime.
Still talk. And
so that part worked out. But my son went into like helpful mode. Like he took over the attorney bracket and made my picks. And
oh, look at that.
So, we all...
Did you blame him when you didn't win?
For sure.
What were you? UConn? I don't even know. Who won that year? Do you remember?
I think it was.
Might have been a little UConn special.
The funny thing is people will do whatever they can to be homesick that week so that they can watch basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And how many people have had vasectomies that week?
Yeah, you beat them to it.
Yeah.
Yours is a much more difficult way to the couch. but nobody's sending you to work in that scenario. So you don't remember any of this. You're going through all this stuff. At some point, though, you do wake up, right? And how long has it been from when you fell into your wife's lap in the garage to the moment that you woke up?
So the event happened, Monday night, Tuesday morning, and I woke up in ICU. It would have been Wednesday evening. So roughly 2 days, pretty close to 2 days.
And that's a long time. I just had a great guy, Nick Magistrali, on the show who was in the similar situation that you are. And with every moment that you're asleep and you've had an event that could have caused oxygen deprivation to your brain, there's fear that if you wake up, because it's an if you wake up, you're not going to be the same, or that there's going to be side effects associated with all this. Was this a warning delivered to Stacy about you?
Definitely. They performed tests throughout the time. I think part of it was they did keep me sedated, because there were times when I was maybe thrashing around a little bit, and
the body is wild. Like even when you're not there, it's reacting.
I was actually restrained, like my wrists were tight.
They had you locked up.
So many tubes in me that they didn't want me pulling any.
Just kept slapping a nurse. Hey, come on, Brad, let's get these arms down. So you're strapped down, and when you walk me through the moment that you remember being awake.
Okay, so I wake up to the feeling of a tube being pulled out of my throat.
Oh.
Which was, I was being extubated and taken off the ventilator.
That's your breathing tube.
The first time that I was breathing on my own. So, and I think they'd tried that one other time and I didn't respond very well. So they gave me a little more time. And this time I woke up very disoriented.
Do you have a sore throat? Do you remember? I just don't know.
Probably,
I mean, that thing's been in there just lurking.
Not sure. I think I was probably on some good pain medicine. In fact, I found out that I was even on fentanyl, which is...
Yeah, you were all the way in.
So
we're like the street people.
Yeah. So Stacy was over me, and then a nurse, Sophia, was there. She was the one that did the extubation. And immediately I'm thinking, where am I? What happened? But I couldn't speak, just from dry throat or whatever. And so they handed me a pen and paper, and I kind of scribbled out. The first thing was what happened. You can barely read it, but they knew
what you were trying to say. That's the question.
And so it was explained to me that I'd had a heart attack and that I was at St. Vincent's in the ICU, and I immediately started crying.
The Fit for Radio podcast is brought to you by the Stafford Hills Club. And if you've never come here and taken one of their classes, you really should do so. Their instructors are really good. I took the Pilates Reformer class here, and she made me feel like I could be comfortable in the room. Let's get it right, though. I've got a lot to learn when it comes to Pilates, but that's how you do it. You just got to show up and give it your best right here at Stafford Hills. They make you feel comfortable, and it's a family environment, not just being able to bring your family here, but also the people together feel like a family. Check out everything to offer at staffordhills.com. Tell them Drew sent you for half off your initiation. I would guess that you would be crying because you just were kind of informed out of the blue. You just woke up from a nap. Somebody's, abusing your throat, and now you get told that all this stuff has happened. And it's got to be, for you, it's got to be like multi-tier because you're worried about yourself. And then as you're kind of like going through it, you're finding out that your wife had to be like straight up ER nurse and save your life, which let it be said now that there is you don't even have an argument for I'm not taking the garbage out. Till the end of the day, she's like, well, I could have just waited 5 minutes. And so and all jokes aside, she's an absolute saint. And if I get the opportunity to meet her, I would love to tell her that to her face. Now, you've been told this, you're super emotional. What's going through your mind, and kind of like, where do you go from there?
I think what's flashing in my mind is that life will forever be different. That feeling of invincibility is now gone.
You've been warned.
This is like the ultimate warning. Like,
you can't shuck this off.
And just the feeling that maybe I'm broken. There's, and maybe I won't get to enjoy the things that I enjoy out of life. And so
I totally get that. The mortality factor is shocking, almost, that you're like, well, I like you work hard your whole life so that you can enjoy things. And now, especially when you haven't done it yet, you're like, but all my favorite foods and all my favorite luxuries, and whether it's a cold beer on your golf course or it's just like crushing a smash burger, like it's got to be all on the plate right there.
Everything is going to be different. And maybe, as I find out, maybe not quite so dramatic, but those are your initial thoughts. Is that this is going to be a big change. And I think so I asked other questions after what happened. I think, well, being a teacher, I wanted to know, like, who's got my math class, because it's sort of the teacher dream. Like, you wake up and you're late for school and you've got a class full of kids.
Yeah.
You're not there.
You've let everyone down.
So I was reassured that was all taken care of. But
you didn't call in, Brad.
No, I didn't get to call in.
There's no excuse for not calling in. We've told you that time and time again. But no, I'm glad that they took care of that. And I'm sure when they were notified of the situation, that was a no problem.
Yeah. And then I remember this specifically. I asked if I had any brain damage.
Well, smart enough have your heads together enough to ask.
Probably a good sign if you have to ask that maybe things are functioning properly.
You're asking a sophisticated question, and you just asked about math class. So I think, if you started barking or something, it would be more
through the checklist.
What else is wrong?
What else is wrong? So.
And luckily, because it's your heart and it's not a stroke, it's not paralyzed any of your face or your limbs or anything like that, right? So most of your problem is directly in your chest.
Yeah. Potentially, I could have maybe not walked out of the hospital, but have been wheeled out in a matter of days. As it turns out, they wanted to run some more tests.
Fair enough.
The left ascending artery, they had some concerns about. That's the artery that they affectionately call the widowmaker.
For good reason, because that's the one that knocks the most people out.
And so a few days later, they went back in with a catheter and checked that one out, and decided that I needed open heart surgery to repair that. So,
And how frightened were you to hear that you were going to do that?
Pretty scared. Having your chest open and knowing that there's complications with things like that. I mean, obviously, with modern technology and modern surgeons, you're in good hands.
You are, but you still, and I'm guessing you had to do this as well, or you or Stacy, depending on your state. Like when I had laparoscopic, pretty aggressive surgery, but you still are signing away that you could die from this. Once you're getting put under for a certain level of surgery, like the paperwork is frightening.
Yeah. And you've heard enough stories about things that could go wrong.
Open heart's normally the one in the movies where the whole team comes running in with the triage team or whatever.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I only needed a single bypass. That one artery needed to be bypassed, and they didn't need to harvest veins or arteries from other parts of the body. So
that's good news.
Had an amazing surgeon, Torin Fitton, who was just super confident. I remember meeting him, and he said, I have no hobbies. I don't do anything for fun. I'm a heart surgeon. So that's what I do.
That's incredible. And I actually have very blessed to know one myself, who, my kids are friends with his kids, and they have something about them. They're almost like, it's almost like Top Gun, like they're so confident to be at the helm that we need their confidence in order to feel like it's going to be okay.
It was encouraging.
Yeah. And he clearly did a good job, because you're sitting here today. You'll probably never forget his name.
For sure.
So do you ever get to, because like there's a doctor that I tribute to fixing my long running sickness. And, I always like look for him because like I want to find him on a message board because doctors are kind of removed from us standard issue people. And I always just want to like find him again just to say like, I hope you know how grateful I am that you saved my life. Like, did you ever get to come in contact with him again?
I ever saw him again. I did go to his office. He wasn't in that day, but I do want to say that all of the healthcare providers were amazing. I did stay in touch with Nurse Sophia, the one that was there when I
That's
came
awesome.
to Tacoma, and through Facebook. And so I think I needed that because they become sort of your family. And I was there for 18 days. So I met a lot of.
It's like summer camp. You're there for a run.
Even the ones that I called vampires, because there was the 3 a.m. blood test every night, and they would come in and
wake you up,
poke my hand, and yeah, sleep was sort of a come and go type of thing.
But even the vampires deserve a tip of the cap because, it's so incredible what these people do, and that they're in these rooms because your story is a great story, but across all hospitals where the situation can be dire, whether it's a heart attack or even when they're delivering babies, the glorious moments and the rewarding moments are so great. But like, there are the moments also where they watch people die. They try to save your life. They come in the middle of the night to try and prick your hand, and then you do, quote unquote, deteriorate, and they lose you. And so it has always blown me away the investment they make in a stranger out of being kind and being good. And it's just, you can't thank those people enough for dedicating their entire life. I mean, outside of probably like 2 days off in the week, every single day they're going into the gauntlet and they're doing that stuff like that for people like you. And the reason I'm guessing that you're still in contact with the lady is like the genuine compassion and like the care for your survival. And they're also kind of like a friend, and it's motherly, and it's all these things that you need when you can't do anything yourself.
And I really felt like they were rooting for me. There was a lot of surprise, I think, when they first met me, wondering why in the first place I was there, because I was
you don't look
stereotypical patient that they might be dealing with. So
because you're what, 5'10", 5'11", 140, 50 pounds, 100, something like that. That's not on the chart.
A poster child for.
No, you think of like the chubby guy who's red in the face all the time and having trouble walking upstairs on the standard issue. But I think it's a warning to a lot of us who just go about living our lives and do so in a fashion where we think it's going to be fine. And, maybe you've been warned a time or two about our health, or don't make this decision, or don't do that. And it's like, all right, I'll take that into consideration. It's like treating it like a brainstorm rather than an actual call to action.
Great idea. I'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah, let's chat later on that. Now, after your 18 days, you finally get released and you get to go home?
Yep.
How's the body doing? You've just had open heart surgery. You're probably pretty weak. What's that feel like?
Amazingly weak, where, standing can be an issue, because there's a lot of lightheadedness. Walking upstairs was definitely a challenge. That first trip into the house was straight to my recliner and just rested there. And going upstairs to the bedroom, there was maybe a stop halfway up, and then definitely sitting down when I got there, sitting in the shower.
Were you warned of all this, or was this concerning?
Yeah, and I think part of it is medication as well.
They still have you on the pain there?
And while I was in the hospital, they were trying different meds out, and there were days when I was miserable. And it's, they're trying out things like beta blockers and ACE inhibitors, and a lot of those have side effects that can make you woozy or dizzy. And so getting that dialed in was a challenge. But just getting my stamina back, I'd done some walking around in the hospital, but there were days when I couldn't even really get out of bed.
Mm-hmm. And at the hospital, it's all kind of like a haze, and it's like they've got you on so many medications. I remember being on those walks where you're like getting tangled up in your cords. Like maybe you need to turn left. And I'm always turning right. But I remember at one point, a nurse was like, what are you doing? Like having to untangle me. Yeah. So like when you get home, it's more like real world experience. You're like, oh, these are my stairs. And I used to jog up these, or I used to bound right up these. And now I'm sitting down 2 times. It's got to be frustrating for a guy who still feels pretty strong day to day right before this.
And psychologically, getting home, you don't have that safety net anymore of being attached to a monitor where they can be at your side within seconds if something's going wrong.
That's a good thought. Yeah, you are. Now it's another 911 call if something happened.
I definitely felt cared for and watched over by Stacy. And I think probably for her, having me home for the first time was difficult too. Just
getting accustomed
to wanting to take her eyes off me and just kind of making sure that everything's okay.
Yeah, because she can breathe when she knows that there's a team of professionals and that are going to take care of you. But now that you're home, she's like, I really don't want to crawl up and save this guy again. I can't do this every week. But it's incredible that you get home, you are having a little bit of that, but then gradually you're getting stronger. You're starting to walk the neighborhood, right? And is that feeling more like yourself?
Yeah. You're under strict directions to not lift any more than 10 pounds.
Okay. That's pretty
impossible.
Yeah, I was going to say that's pretty light.
And that's because of the chest incision. They literally wire your chest shut.
You don't need that popping like a baked potato.
Yeah, they said if you mess that up, it's a real problem to put it back. So,
oh man, just the thought of that going, is too much.
Being the active, loving yard work, garden work, and here we are heading into the height of spring.
It's season.
In a way, it's nice because I'm able to just kind of relax and watch a lot of TV and get waited on and all that. But in the back of my mind, I want to kind of get rolling, get going again. And so, I'm walking the neighborhood. And at first, it's a major trip just to walk over to my mom's house, which is maybe 50 yards away. And then I think one day I walked down a hill that's nearby, kind of just went about halfway down. And when I came back up, I felt pretty good. It's like, I don't need to sit down.
You were making progress.
So probably 2 weeks in, I'm starting to see a little bit of a difference, which is nice.
That's incredible. And at some point, because you weren't allowed to drive during this time for a couple of weeks there, and at some point you're feeling good enough to feel like you can get behind the wheel?
Yeah. So I guess it was my 2-week appointment after being home. So we're talking later in April. I was cleared to drive, which was nice because then maybe we could bring in the equation, maybe going back to work to my part-time job teaching, which I had just fully expected to not go back to for the rest of the school year. And so 3 weeks after being released from the hospital, I was back in the classroom.
That's amazing. Now, when you get back to the classroom, I don't know how it is at your school, and you're only teaching part-time, but is any fanfare there?
Oh, the kids are great.
Yeah. And because I would think that you deserve like a hero's welcome and the cheering and the...
I mean, kids can make you feel pretty good about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. And I've taught now for 38 years. So,
which is incredible in itself. And I didn't get a chance to say this, but thank you for doing that, because I do feel that a teacher is so underappreciated in our world, and that it's the most important thing we can do for our kids is to educate them and prepare them for a life that can be successful. And so for you to do that for nearly 40 years is incredible. And I'm glad that those kids celebrated you, because I could only imagine my favorite teachers, if somebody were to tell me back then that something like that had happened, I'd probably have a banner in their yard.
Yeah, there was a big welcome back sign on the bulletin board.
Nice.
So it was a good feeling to kind of get back into the routine. And I was still pretty tired, at the end of the day. And so...
Well, you're getting it done.
But it was a step in the right direction. Mid-May, I'm allowed to start cardiac rehab therapy.
Okay, so that's what's going to try and get you back to strength?
Yeah, and so... And this is, basically I'm allowed to work out under supervision. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I did that at Providence, Newburgh. And again, great people there. Dana and Emma were great.
They're such motivators and coaches, and
you just know they're on your side,
there's an energy about those people. Like when you get to them and they're like, okay, we're going to do this. And it's like, it's not like we might do this. We're going to do this together.
Yeah. And so I'm getting on a treadmill, wearing a heart monitor. And so they're watching how the heart's reacting to the more exercise. Again, still not allowed to lift any weights. Not allowed to run on the treadmill. I'm just walking for 30 minutes and maybe hopping on the bike.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So as that's going on, are you feeling stronger all the time? Are you having setbacks? Are you feeling like you're turning the corner?
I did end up going to the ER one day.
Did you have?
I was having some palpitations or fluttering. And my primary doctor had said, fairly normal, but if it's something that continues, then you should probably have it checked out. And I remember we were going to Costco, and I was kind of feeling it as I was driving. Stacy was with me, and we got to the parking lot at Costco, and I hadn't said anything yet, but before we opened the doors to go into the store, I said, I've been feeling some fluttering. We should probably get it checked out. We get to the ER, and of course it stops.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't happen for 3 hours while I'm sitting in the ER.
You're like, it happened, but it's not happening.
And when we got to the car, leaving the ER, it started up briefly. I didn't go back in.
But I think what would be frightening to me is because of what happened to you. And it's such a traumatic thing. I'm just going to use a grand scale. If somebody raises their hand and slaps you, they don't have to slap you again for you to have that feeling. As soon as the hand comes up, all those feelings return of like, all my progress, all everything. And then what are we going to have to go have another surgery? We're going to go have to start over. Am I going to lose all this energy I've got now? I would be worried about it as well. But you make it through the flutters?
Yeah. And they did put me on a monitor for a couple of weeks, and my cardiologist checked it out and explained what it was and that it's fairly normal.
Okay.
My heart did suffer a little bit of damage, and I feel like now it's probably almost full strength again, but there was maybe some damage that maybe won't ever completely come back because it is a muscle.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems like it started to come back a little because at some point you gain the confidence to start pushing your exercise to a level above just going up the stairs or walking up a hill or around the block.
Yeah, eventually, of course, being a golfer, then I wanted to get back out on the course. And so I went out to the course and saw all my buddies out there and practiced a few days and went out to the range and did some easy swinging. And my doctor did say it was okay to do that. The physical therapists weren't quite as on board. They were a little bit surprised, but I was careful. And when I got to that 12-week period, then when they started letting me lift weights,
then you could swing away.
And, swinging.
That's awesome. And honestly, to get back out on the golf course, beyond just the physical part of it, it's the mental. It's the letting you back out to the place where you were taking pictures of the scenery. I mean, it's your happy place. That and your garden.
Full circle moment.
Yeah. I mean, if you get to do that and you get to go home and lodge some bulbs in the soil, you've had a full day. So being back on the course, and I spent a long time playing golf, and I still love golf, and I love the feeling of being there. And it's something that my grandma, before she passed away, she was like, go out, play golf, and don't forget to soak it in. Just watch the wind go through the trees or whatever. There aren't many places where you can go where it's quiet and it's serene and you get to smash the heck out of a golf ball. I mean, so it must have been nice to be back.
Yeah, for sure.
The Fit for Radio podcast is brought to you by the Stafford Hills Club. And when you come here, you will notice the difference. The sense of community is amazing. People smiling, happy. They hold the door for you around here. And of course, it's one of those clubs that when you sign up, they want you to come back. They want you to be happy and healthy because then we can all be together for a long time. Check out all the amenities and everything they have to offer at StaffordHills.com. Tell them Drew sent you and get half off your initiation. Now that you're doing some of those workouts, you're hitting the treadmill at home, you're able to use some weights. You actually purchase some weights, and you've set up a little bit of a workout routine for yourself.
Yeah, we have a little gym at home and accountability spreadsheet. I have a spreadsheet that basically I'm accountable for writing down what I did the day before, and so I don't want to write down nothing.
Yeah.
So it started mainly with just going on lots of walks, and then I gradually started running on the treadmill, and so now it's 3-4 times a week I'm running on the treadmill, getting that cardio. Really important to get your heart rate up to like 140 for 20-30 minutes a day if you can.
And most people don't do that. They don't, even if they are working out, they're doing like a walking from one machine to the other. And I do a lot of that too, but I do always try to work that cardio in. And it's tough to always be at 140. I'll admit there are days where, it's like a Sunday morning and I've been doing this for like days and days and days that I just want to check the box and maybe it won't hit 140. But as long as you're getting on there, it's better than nothing. And you can look, it's so wild. And, not everybody is the same like vascular as the next guy. But like, for example, for me, if I'm riding a stationary bike, when it gets to about 15 minutes in, my arm starts to look different because like the veins start to raise up. And to me, that's like the tunnels are full, and now we're pumping blood all over this body. And that's like, and aside from the quote unquote vanity of it, which isn't so bad, it makes you feel like it's the power of progress.
Yeah. It's that visual evidence that
something's happening,
doing something.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I actually want to commend you also on setting up a little workout station at home. It's the same thing if somebody learns the guitar, that you shouldn't put the guitar back in the case. It should sit on a rack so it's accessible. One less thing in the way of doing it. No excuse from point A to point B. And now there's no secret that I also love to work out at Stafford Hills Club, but I have a gym at my house with the stall mats and the Peloton as well, but the weights, so that there is never an excuse. Like, oh, well, I can't put my kid in kids club today because we got to go do this. Check a 0. Because of your consistency and your spreadsheet and kind of like the thing you worked through on your bike all those years, it's a letdown to yourself if you break the streak or the consistency. Is that where you are too? Because for me, because I have these long streaks, the thought of failing is devastating because that ends all the progress.
Right. Yeah. And listening to your journey of the 1,000 push-ups a day is kind of spoken to me in a way, knowing that you're committed to something and then, you're accountable to it. So I sort of feel that way about exercising my heart. So, before maybe I thought of exercise just for the body. I'm more thinking about exercising my heart, which is harder to do because you don't see it.
Which is smart of you. And that's probably why you're a little more educated on the actual beats per minute and stuff that you kind of got to get. And the feel, you know what makes you feel good. And I think that everybody should kind of be like that, where you morph your exercise for what you need. And I feel like if I'm working with somebody who's working on their nutrition or their health, I can't just like pass them a packet. I have to figure out what it is that makes them tick or what they're trying to fix. And there is no one size fits all. Like you with your heart is going to be a different workout than say somebody who's just trying to like get rid of some back fat, which the dreaded back fat everybody wants rid of.
And there's certainly the side benefit of all this is it's made me a better golfer. It's made yard work easier, working in the garden easier. It's made starting the lawnmower, just pulling the cord. It's just, there's all those benefits of just generally feeling better.
And, you talk about exercising your heart. Really, what it almost is doing as much, though, is it's exercising your mind. There's nothing that gets me out of my own way more than exercise, especially like the early morning hours is the most anxious time of the day for me. And if I'm exercising, then I'm focused on something else. And then all those natural chemicals and endorphins and everything start to flow. And we don't even notice sometimes, but it's actually kind of peaking your mental health in a good direction. And so while you're exercising your heart, you're exercising your brain, you're getting stronger. You're probably, it's good for everyone. It's good for your wife that you're not a loaf, or that you're grumpy or disconnected. Right. And there's a lot of clarity and stuff that comes with it too.
One of the things that I learned to appreciate is feeling good. And I don't want to feel bad again. And so for me, that's meant, changing my diet. I used to have the daily drink, and that doesn't make me feel good anymore. And so, now it's more of like the occasional social drink instead of the
required one
daily drink.
All right. So you've changed your diet considerably in order to, up your chances of these things not happening to you again. You had mentioned at some point that you're very routine with your stuff. So your eating habits used to look like what, and what do they look like now?
Well, part of my breakfast routine for years was scrambling up 3 eggs and throwing a little cheese and bacon bits on the top.
Oh, the bits. See, that takes it to another level. I feel like bacon bits have always been overpriced to save your life. Until Kirkland came out with the big bag. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
The Mondo.
I'm a victim of those.
You've had some of those. That might be part of the problem. Yeah. But it's an incredible deal for real bacon. They even say it's real bacon. It's not like a Bako.
It tastes good.
It is so good. And so I definitely had like a family intervention at one point where they're like, I think you've had too much bacon. Because I'd have a salad and like grilled chicken on it, but then like a fat wad of bacon.
Yeah.
And just because I don't have a ton of like the special dressings and all that, like it's one of those deals. And that's what's frightening a little bit about your deal is salt and things like that have always been my vice because I don't have the carbs and I don't do the dairy, and dairy, like just putting that cheese on top of there, the inflammation that causes to your body. I mean, I would say to even try it. Like you do workouts all the time. You work your workouts around a healthier diet. Try it with and without dairy products. Now, I don't think that yogurt is in the same boat as cheese. I really don't. Or as the same as like milk or ice cream or something along those lines. If I eat those things, like if I were to just crush a bowl of ice cream, there'd be all kinds of ill effects. Like not your standard lactose issues where you're like hugging knees and like trying to figure out why your body is evacuating itself. But like my complexion, the oiliness of my hair and my skin, my joints, my fingers, my ability to push through the last rep or the last, mile or whatever. And I think we've all had that meal where say you have to go to a brunch, but then you still want to do a workout. And so you've eaten an ill-advised amount of things and then you try to do that workout. It's like working out in like you're trying to get through cement. It's counterproductive. And I think that dairy is one of those big things. Now, what is your intake in that world now? And so what did you replace eggs, bacon, and cheese with?
Typically, my mornings now would be a banana and a protein drink.
Okay.
Along with my meds, just to kind of help digest everything. So,
and I don't think that there's a problem with that. I've fasted for many years, and at first I was like, I cannot do this, and then I got good at it, but then I realized that if you do workouts every day, you should have a different meal plan than on the day that you don't. And now a rest day looks different for everyone. Like I'm always going to do the push-ups, and I'm always going to do the Peloton, but like if I'm not going to work out, like lift weights, then I will fast. But I'm not going to fast and put a heavy weight over my head. That's a recipe for a broken nose. Like you should fuel the body and then the body burns it off. So I think that your protein shake is great. Your banana is great. I mean, in a perfect world, I would ask, is that a whey protein shake?
Yeah, and that's something I need to research for sure.
You're not, it'll say it right on the front. It'll be like whey, or it'll say vegan, or, I mean, it's really just a very small finite number of either a plant protein or whey is the mega one. And it works really well. And some people's bodies deal with it just fine. But it's like you can throw anything into a dumpster fire and it'll burn up. And I don't want to, sit and say people shouldn't have whey protein in general, but I think it's something worth looking at and seeing how that can affect whatever, because, as we age, it's not as easy as a game anymore. And, you tell me, I mean, you do a lot of workouts, you probably feel the effects of some of that.
Yeah, there's the daily aches and pains. I do think that it's gotten better because I've incorporated more stretching, and the weightlifting that I do is fairly light, more of a cardio weightlift and more of a flexibility type of exercises, mainly for my shoulders and chest.
Yeah, I think honestly, as we get older, it's more important to be flexible than it is to be super strong. I mean, you don't really have to defend your honor in front of a bar anymore. It's like
Hopefully not.
Most things are conversational, and you're moving your body enough to where at least you can jog away from trouble if needed. Now, so you're done with the eggs. You're going with a lighter diet. You day to day, you're not having those red meats. Do you feel that is making you feel better, or is this just all part of a plan to go long term?
Yeah, I think the consistency is good for me, and that's like for lunch now I'll do carrots and nuts and maybe a fruit smoothie or something like that.
Yeah,
instead of a heavy, like a big sandwich or something like that.
And that stuff will kind of drag you down in the end anyway. Now, as we're winding it down, what would you say to people who are hesitant to go to the doctor and to listen to their body?
Well, I mean, this is the wake-up call that I probably didn't need to have. You don't want to come within seconds or minutes of your life because you refuse to do something 15 years ago. And doctors and all healthcare providers they want what's best for you. They're on your side, and so they're looking to help you.
Yeah, I think it's important to let the pros be the pros, and don't let the bro in you get in the way. Like, we're too strong, we're too stubborn, we know everything. We also don't want to be told what we don't want to hear. I think that's, there's so many buddies that don't want to go because they don't want to lose their ability to crush a Philly cheesesteak, but I still see them huff and puff when they come up some stairs. So, like, something's got to give, because if it's happening to you, Brad, then it can happen to any of us. Because if we were just to like put 100 people in a room and play the Guess Who game where we're knocking down all the tabs, your tab would probably be on the last shelf left of the guy that it wouldn't happen to. So it is important. I do think you should be proactive, and you should take care of yourself. Think about yourself 20 years from now, and to live every day to the fullest. I can't say it enough that, I've spent so much of my life looking ahead, or if only I had this, or if I just work a little bit harder, I can get that, and then I'll be happy. And all the time, if you would just take a breath and look, you've got this beautiful family and this beautiful, environment and all these other things that are around you, that if you just suck it up while you're healthy, you're better off. Because I've been sick for 3 years, and you've nearly died. And it puts things into perspective that just to feel okay, like to feel like I'm not hurting or sick or like on the verge of having a heart attack, that is a blessing, right? And to be able to garden and to be able to play golf, even if you're not a 2 handicap, even if I'm, hitting a 15 over, it's still, every one of those should be counted as a magic moment. The last thing I would say is, what would you say to people when it comes to CPR training after what's happened with you?
The message should be that CPR isn't that difficult, but you need to go through the process of learning it. And when you're in an emergency situation, you want to be able to react, not panic. And so I think in Stacy's case, she reacted without panicking. She had that background of having the training. Even though she'd never administered it before, she did it.
And that training was huge, because I'll say it again, and I'm going to make it clear, she is a hero. and should be celebrated. You're 2 to 3 times more likely to survive if somebody immediately starts to administer CPR. You can't always rely on other people to take care of these situations, because what if you didn't have a cell signal? What if the call didn't go through and nobody could be there to tell you? So I'm going to make that pledge that I'm going to get the CPR training so I'm not just an anvil when things go down. You know, it's just, my kid actually almost drowned in a pool when she was 2 years old. And I remember feeling so helpless because I didn't know how to get the water out of the lungs of a 2-year-old compared to what you do with a full-grown adult. And you're paralyzed in that moment. And out where we were, out near Black Butte in Oregon here, there was no signal and somebody had to run for help, and you're just holding a blue in the face baby. So it is so important to get that training, and I'm going to do that. So maybe I can save a life like yours, Brad, because it's important.
I'll refresh my training too.
Yeah, and it's important that you're here, and I'm so glad to know you. I'm glad that we were able to connect. I want to stay in contact. I want to play some golf. I'm going to get just drummed when we do that, but I'm pretty good on the putting surface. You know, like I might just like totally fall apart, but there will be a couple putts where you say, that, buddy, wasn't so bad. So thank you for coming in, Brad. And Brad Bahns is the man. I'm glad you're alive, and I can't wait to someday meet your wife in person and shake her hand and say thank you for saving a good life.
I appreciate you having me, Drew.
Of course, buddy. Have a great day.